to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam on this beautiful March 3rd, 2022. It is Batman Day, the day that the Batman is coming out in theaters, and I think this may be the first true, full Batman movie we cover on the podcast, because the podcast wasn't going in 2012 when The Dark Knight Rises came out. Since then, Batman has cameoed in a few movies and had, leading roles and such in, he had cameos in Suicide Squad. He had a leading role in Justice League and Batman v Superman. Well, let's call Batman v Superman a Batman movie. So there was one Batman movie that was covered. You're an asshole if you back into a spot in the little busy road. I'm sorry. And so it wouldn't be. Alright, so technically the second time I'm going to Batman movie, but that'll be later today, after I see The Batman. Today, for the early episode, we're going to talk about Pokemon Legends Arceus, which I have finally finished. It's a complex game. I have complex feelings about it. Now, to start out, the game is less a regular Pokemon game. It is kind of the same thing as a regular Pokemon game in a lot of ways, but in terms of story, narrative, even that, it kind of is the same. But it does kind of broadly follow the same kind of story as Mystery Dungeon. I would say, I don't remember the story of Mystery Dungeon, Gates to Infinity, and Super Mystery Dungeon. But I remember the ones, it does, kind of follow the story of Blue Rescue Team and Explorers of Time, Explorers of Darkness. So, basically, if we're going to take the story and break it down, what it is you are brought back in time. You're from the modern day, quote-unquote. You are sent back in time to 1,000 years before, before anything we usually play, and you are playing as, this guy from the future who fell through a rift in time, met Arceus, and then it ends up having to save the world, back then. It's an interesting idea, to see this, kind of play out. And I think it's cool, and this is where they decided to go with this. I guess, how do I put this? The crafting system's cool. The idea of sneaking up on Pokemon and catching them is cool. The way the Pokédex works is cool, where you catch things to level it up. The story's kind of okay, and I didn't get as hung up on catching, and I didn't get as hung up on not having abilities and not having held items as much as most people, I think, a lot of people did. And I think that, but when the game was in development, that was a bigger sticking point than it was after the game came out, because once the game comes out and you see how the game works with a more realistic bag system, where it's it's not just a black hole you can throw everything you want into. It's, you have to upgrade the bag, and if you gotta have hold items in there, it's gonna take up space, and that's, needless. I like the way they modified the evolutions to get around held items and trading. It's a really interesting idea, where it's the link cable you can use to evolve the trade evolutions. If you need to get Magmar into Magmortar, you would just use the Magmarizer as an evolution item, without giving it to him to hold and then sending him through a trade. It's an interesting kind of new idea. A lot of it is really cool. And maybe I'm in the minority on this, but a lot of the story, when we get to there's a lot less skill involved in this game than past games. Because after you beat the main story and you get through, and in mine I ended up fighting, Primal Dialga, or not Primal Dialga, that was from Explorers of Time, but Origin Form Dialga. And even that wasn't really hard. For me, it's when you go to face Palkia, which is the first one you face Palkia or Dialga, depending on what you choose, and then you face the other one after you do a few other fetch quests. And what you do is you have to catch the what's it called? You have to catch it, and the catch mechanic. I don't know if the catch mechanic is just broken or it's designed to be this easy, but catching the legends that you do after you finish the main game, it's just not fun. It's just not. Like, even if you were to go into Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, it requires more skill and more strategizing to catch the legends. I mean, and it's not just the fact that there are less Pokeballs to choose from, because there are only 9 in this game. There's, Pokeball, Great Ball, Ultra Ball, then the 3 iterations of the Jet Ball, which are very light and allow you to, and allow you to throw it from very far away and hit things without it losing its, height. And then there's the Heavy Ball and its iterations, which are designed where you have to sneak up on something and get it very close range, but it's at a very high catch rate. Like, whereas, like, playing in... Here's my problem, is that when you play in the mainline games, be it, like Sword and Shield or any of the other games, when you encounter a legendary Pokemon, in an encounter where you're going to battle them, excluding the max raids, if you encounter a legendary Pokemon, typically the strategy will be you're going to throw out a Quick Ball first, because it's got a 5-time catch rate on the first one, and what the hell, why not? What's the worst that could happen? It doesn't get caught. Like, it doesn't hurt to do it, and it'll go in every once in a while. There were 2 of the late game Legends that did not get caught on the first Ultra Ball thrown out of the gate. And only one of them required more than 2. I also feel like the battling's a little broken, because it feels like not just the agile style and the strong style bullshit. I'm referring more to the the whole thing with the what's it called? But that makes sense. Like, the idea that you would train your Pokemon, they would master a move, and they would get more powerful with the move, and they'd be able to learn how to do the move either quickly or both quickly and more powerfully. Like, that makes logistical sense within the world they've built. And not just the world they've built in this game, but the world they've built at large for Pokemon. But my point is that, like, I should... And I like the way the speed system works, even though it's not terrific. I like the idea that it works a little bit better, but if I upgrade Pokemon's speed to the max, then shouldn't it have a little bit more oomph to it? Like, I don't know. And move priority is kind of illustrated in a visual way, and that's a cool idea too. There's a lot of cool ideas implemented. It just feels like, for whatever reason, the attacks do a lot more damage. And I'm not 100% certain, like, how that happened, where they're like, that much more damage is being done, where it's like, it's very rare that, an attack just hits and is, and is effective, and it leaves some damage. It is a lot of times a one-shot. You using it on them, or an opponent using it on you, it is basically 100% a one. Like, I wouldn't say 100%, but I would say in the 80% of the time, it's a it's a one-shot, which just isn't fun. It's like the battling is the least interesting part of this, and it's like, it got to the point where I was trying to avoid battling, and I'm like, well, what's the point of doing this game then if I'm not going to sit here and attempt to battle shit? Like, they took that, and it's the second spin-off now that is prioritized catching over battling. And I will admit, this one's a lot more fun than Let's Go, but I feel like there's a lot of things that could have been handled better. Like, Let's Go was very obviously trying to capitalize on the success and popularity of Pokemon Go, so the idea of raids, like the raid style of battling that goes into catching legends, that works a lot better than just, here's a legend and try to catch it. Like, they don't really like, and that was the thing too. It's like he tried to me 2 attempts to catch, only because the first time I didn't know what was going on, and I kept trying to pick up mud, throw it at the lava dome around it, so the lava dome goes away, and then try to catch it. And it's like, oh, okay, so that makes sense. Then you have to go to, but once you figure that out, it's pretty easy. But I went in already damaged because I fell off the mountain coming in, and I was like, oh, okay, this can't be too bad. And then I died pretty quickly. So looking at that kind of broadly and being like, oh, so this is not just gonna be fixed. To me, playing through the game as I'm playing through and doing, these, I don't want to say nonsensical missions because that seems reductive, but and it's like, I think that the game does a lot of padding of content by being like, oh, and here's a request, and here are these requests, and here's things you can do, and it's like, okay, cool, this has very little to do with the plot, and a lot of them are just fetch quests. Go get this for me, go catch this for me, bring it to me, let me do this for me, and it's like, look, I have shit to, the fetch quests, at least there are no escort missions in this game, because escort missions would have probably had me, not play. And then once you hit the rhythm of the game, the entire middle of the game kind of goes pretty quick. It's kind of the same thing as a lot of the Pokemon games recently. I remember thinking that in X and Y, and kind of the same thing, where it's like, in X and Y, you, once you hit, the game really hits its stride after the second gym, and when I say it hits its stride, I mean that it really slows down. And the distance, the length of routes really shortens, and the amount of time you spend in between going to cities and getting gym badges shortens, and all of that. Between 1 and 2 it's a long time, and then 2 and 3 it's a long and starting in 1 is a long time, and then even getting to 3 is a long time. But then after that, it kind of hits its stride, and it's just like boom, 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 continue the story, move along, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. This game does kind of the same thing. Even Sword and Shield had that same thing, and Sun and Moon, where it's very front-loaded to the point where it hurts replay value. Where it's like, I don't want to sit through all this fucking bullshit again. And then once you hit that, once the game hits its stride, it feels like a regular game, but then it's like, there's just so much shit you gotta sit through, and it's like, I don't want to do that. I just don't want to do that. So, yeah, I feel like there was a substantial, there's room for improvement, definitely, on this game. I feel like it's not, I just don't think there's a lot of room to, there are definitely issues, and I'm not entirely sure how to solve them, because a lot of the issues are endemic of how the Pokemon Company and how Game Freak makes games. And in that regard, there really is no easy way to say, boom, we're going to improve X, Y, and Z, and that will solve the problem, because it's just, narrative pacing that they've had this issue now for almost a decade. Because X and Y was the first game I really noticed that on. Maybe it was in Black and White and Black and White 2. But X and Y came out in 2013, if I remember correctly. And that was the first game to really be like, there is an issue that needs to be addressed. And let's address the issue and be like, oh, there is no easy way to do that. And I think that's going to be the problem going forward, even into Scarlet and Violet, where it's like, if they don't find a way to fix the narrative of it, and if they don't think there's an issue with the narrative, which, I'm going to be honest, I don't think that they think there is, because sales have been going up consistently. There probably isn't an issue with the narrative. Maybe I'm alone on that. But I feel like if, front-loading the game's content into that, and then making pure post-game being, you have to catch all the Pokemon, it feels kind of silly. Especially in a game like this, which is so seeped in legend, and so seeped in, oh, well, you need to do all of this. It feels like it feels like something where it's like, oh, and now here are all the legends, go catch them. And then the catching of the legends is too easy, I would say. Way too easy. To the point where it's just not fun. Like, why am I going to go through and just, for the sake of doing it, just go and catch all of these legends? And it's not like, in the later games, Mii Spirit tries to, goes around, you have to chase Mii Spirit down. So, that could have been an interesting mechanic. Same with Cresselia. Neither of which do it. And it's like, I don't understand how that's I just don't understand how that's a thing. Where it's like, I don't know. I'm not disappointed in the game per se, because I've lost a substantial amount of time playing it. And I think that a lot of the game does work. Like, it is fun. It does accomplish what it sets out to accomplish. But I don't think that there's enough game there to really warrant, to really, I don't know. I feel like I like it, but I also feel like I kind of don't. And it feels kind of weird, where it's like, if you liked Breath of the Wild, and it's like, let's take a step and a half back from that in terms of quality and gameplay, and it's like, you'll probably still like this. My problem with it is, it's short. I don't think there's enough Pokemon. I think there's only like 200 and change. I mean, legend hunting's not fun. And it gets repetitive after a while, where it's like, oh, go here, catch the legend, go here, catch the legend, go here, catch the legend. Like, at one point, they just give you a mission, it's like, go catch 5 legendary Pokemon. It's like, okay, cool. So, and then you go, and it's like, okay, now bring me wood. And it's like, what the fuck? Just give me the next legend I go catch. Like, you could have made them into these giant boss battles in the way you made, into a giant boss battle. Like, they could have done it in the same way they did the noble Pokemon. This giant-ass boss battle. Like, that's kind of like, you have to, you have to, go and just fight them. And it's like, that would have been cool. That would have been cool, but they didn't do that. They did this instead. I don't know. I feel like I'm disappointed, but I'm also not entirely sure how I would have improved it to be not disappointed. So yeah, very non-committal answer, but Pokemon Legends Arceus, if you want to pick it up, you can go to wherever they sell video games and buy it, or you can go on the Nintendo eShop and buy it there, where it is available to purchase for $59.99. I typically go to Walmart to buy my games because it is $10 cheaper to buy them there. So yeah, we will wrap up there for today. Our next episode will be tonight when we talk about the Batman. So until then, have a great rest of your week.